Tirana konsiderohet me hapa. Kjo nuk është thjesht më një ëndër. Ky është realiteti. Një qytet me vjedhje dhe gjallëri, Tirana nuk flet. Çdo kur i vendosur, çdo ndërtesë e re, është pjesë e një mozaiku i jashtëzakonshëm të ekselencës urbane. Projektet e reja, produkti i vizionit të arkitektëve dhe skuadrave profesionale, më të njohura të botës së vendit, po e kthejnë Tiranën jo vetëm në një atelier artistike, por edhe në një hapësirë, në qendër artistike.
Quality of life, green space and community space, services and sustainable development are at the core. Anything is an opportunity, something to write the story of Tirana. Ladies and gentlemen, launching the activity on energizing cities, property development, I would like to give the floor to the Executive Director of the Albanian Corporates, AIC, and the organizer of the competition, international competition, Mrs. Edi Rama. Good morning. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. We were actually looking forward to be in this particular building, in this palace. We were giving life to 4 concept design competitions, giving life to 2 investment projects, to witness here new concepts of architecture in Tirana, and energizing cities by giving life to 20 assets, the potential value of which was totally untapped. A new concept for the administration of public property and managing proper development. We're investing this mainly to the private properties. AIC is trying to reinvent itself, not just for the sake of change, but to translate the new vision of the Prime Minister and the government into better and more efficient use of public assets, to make them available for the public finance, exactly like someone at home would be doing, caring after the home, to have healthy assets, healthy properties, increasing the efficiency of public assets, ensuring the best and having the best interest of the public property through international cooperation by selecting them through international auctions, transparent auctions, is the main and key objective of our work. Like any other public institution, we start with clear objectives, clear legal instruments, and better coordination through projects without which we cannot make the dreams come true, as Walt Disney used to say. But what AIC has done? Have we been working to do this? Have we been working to achieve this? I mean, we keep listening to this question as it is. In less than 9 months, we have developed many acts, 2 international partnerships. We have a strategy which is underway. We have 25 strategies with direct beneficiaries. Today, we're giving life to 2 new projects which are going to pave the road to 3 investment projects, which would be the security corpus, the new library, and the Selman Stermasi Stadium in cooperation with the Tirana municipality. The concept of the academy, of the football academy, together with the Manchester City Football Club, Rafa Nadal Sports Center in Dura City, in the context of Dura City Sports Center, Expo Albania in cooperation with Italian agency ITA and AX, are some of the projects followed by our corporation as a development of these, the best international expertise to bring out the value of these assets for the economy, to ensure innovative urban development, to improve the lives of the community, and to enhance the value of the economic public assets. We have a model cooperation with some of the active public institutions, such as the Territorial Development Agency, the State Agency for the Real Estate, the Agency for Territorial Planning, Urban Planning, the State Agency for Geospatial Activities, and the Ministry of Economy, Culture and Innovation. Here, I'd like to take a moment to thank Minister Gongia and the deputy ministers. Through this process and the experience we had one unique call. We had two competitions, international competitions. There was quite impressive participation, 56 applications from 37 groups, many architectural teams, some of the most renowned worldwide. But of course, with cooperation with the local partners, which brings us to a final stage of this impressive competition as the best example of the support we've had thus far and for the future that Albania will be in 2030. Our Italian colleagues, the Del Demanio agency, the agency that has more than 45 assets, public assets, based also on the Austrian, Greek, Spanish models, through the authorization we have for the new development policies and for the management of public assets, we are seeing now the first results. These possibilities for the development of assets has not just been embraced by the public sector, but some of the owners who are surrounding these public properties, some of whom have joined us in this vision. I would like to invite anyone who would like to give more life to the property, to their property, be this public or private property, or who would like to re-energize the property. Anyone is welcome to join us in this long road. The governor poll, which includes different institutions, and the real estate institution will be in line with the image of Albania for 2030. And this will be useful for something that will be there for years. The vision of Deputy Prime Minister Baluku, who has been the leadership in many of such initiatives, was making sure that 40,000 meters were added to this competition. And I'd like to mention 30,000 of these are offices, halls for meetings, parking slots, and 1,000 meters for entertainment for kids. Some of the main beneficiaries will be the citizens benefiting from these services, and 30,000 employees who will be working in dignified and contemporary offices in line with EU standards. I would like to thank you for your attention and your interest, and like to express my gratitude to Prime Minister Edi Rama, who actually appointed me and made me as a leader for this initiative. I am sure that you're going to follow the concept designs for all of the teams and for all of the efforts that they've been engaged with, and the discussions with the jury. And I'd like to thank the members, each and every one of the members of the jury, for their participation to be able to choose the best among the best, so the crème de la crème. I wish you all success in this very important decision-making that will have a very important impact in the portfolio of the, for instance, contract. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite the Mayor of Tirana, Mr. Erion Veliaj, to take the floor. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tirana, in particular those who have arrived for the first time, and this is the first time ever that they're part of these competitions. Actually, a tradition now since the time that Edi Rama was a mayor and has now transformed Tirana in the largest lab of architectural designs and of a new taste that provides for this new economy. There's always a dilemma in our mind. The land, the space we have, which we have inherited from our predecessors, or are we borrowing them from our children? And I like the latter. So we've borrowed these territories, these spaces from our own children, and therefore it is our obligation that this loan that we have from them, we actually leave it in a better shape for it to provide more for others. And in that perspective, this is how I would like all of us to see this competition. So something we have borrowed from the next generation that has major expectations on us. Let me give you some data very briefly. For those who come to these competitions for the first time and in Tirana for the first time, 40% of Albanian population lives in Tirana, and it produces 50% of the economy of the country. Any investment in Tirana, therefore, is like a domino effect, because it can be expanded to the rest of the country. And some of the experiments we've had with the urban planning, like in the National Stadium, the new bazaar, territories that had been left to almost rot there and now have become lively areas of the city. And a new campaign for planting trees and taking care of the environments, which actually started off with when Edi Rama was mayor of Tirana, a few weeks ago brought back the rewards when Tirana became one of the top 10 European capitals, greenest capitals. So this is future-proof, how we're ready to deal with climate change, and how it basically means that the carbon footprint we can leave behind is better. And I believe that with the technology we have and environmentally friendly designs, we can have products which are both aesthetically pleasing but also environmentally friendly. And last but not least, what we've seen is that every new project means that the value of our assets go up, and also the quality of the entire neighborhood that it is being developed. So we've seen like how a school that is reconstructed properly, a building that carries the signature of a prestigious architectural design company means that the assets of the around will go up in value. And we know that the same will happen after these competitions will produce a winner, and therefore the winner will then carry on with the work. And I'm sure that the question is always the following. These buildings already exist, so why are we doing something new? This was a dilemma we had also in the Zogo, the first boulevard, the Max Velo architecture building. So, of course, people do have nostalgia about older buildings. And, of course, it goes back with a lot of history, what's gone on there for a long time. But unfortunately, disasters, like natural disasters, like an earthquake, means that they can no longer carry on. So what we had to do, despite the nostalgia we had for Max Velo's building, we had to demolish it. And, of course, we kept some specific elements to keep them in the new design so that we can carry on with the history, but that we can have healthier ideas. And we know the Frank Lloyd Wright Imperial Building, Imperial Second. Of course, it was grand, even stronger than Imperial One, but it didn't withstand the earthquake, because after the first wave of the earthquake, they came to the conclusion that they needed an Imperial 3, and yet that has been demolished for another thing. So this isn't about denying contributions or history, but it's about a new reality in Tirana. So it's an absolute pleasure for me to now pass the floor to the Prime Minister of Albania, Mr. Edi Rama. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, everybody. And in particular, I would like to welcome each and every single friend, partner, and invitee we have here today. I mean, the architects who are part of the competition, but also the members of the jury who have so generously accepted our invitation to be part of this competition. And of this jury, for the 10 teams, the 10 finalists. So we have 10 finalists in 2 groups, 5 per group, and who will tell the jury, will present their own concept ideas about 4 development sites, very important ones at that. These are 4 development sites which will pave the way to a new phase, a new approach, and, without shred of a doubt, a new role that the state will play vis-à-vis public property. At this present moment, to make it absolutely clear to everyone, those perhaps who are not informed in terms of this initiative, public institutions pay millions of euros per annum in rent to be able to carry on with their work in these spaces which are far from being dignified for those particular state institutions or for Albania 2030, or for what the Albanian public deserves, and the members of the public who receive services from the state institutions and who are far removed from the conditions that these civil servants should be working in. And other than the millions and millions of euros we're talking about and that are paid in rent every year for these spaces which need to be properly adjusted, we're talking about several institutions which continue to do their work in buildings which have no values anymore whatsoever, not only in terms of architecture, but also the fact is that they do have maintenance issues because they're so old, they've been inherited from the communist past, and have also been used now for new purposes which have nothing to do with the space that they're using. Therefore, the architects have been called upon so that they can provide us with new ideas, they can present their projects to give us the opportunity to build a large government complex which will accommodate a considerable number of institutions in it. And on the other hand, another public building where other institutions will be accommodated, institutions which are in dire need of having a proper place for them to be able to work in and from. So this particular juncture we're at is indeed very significant because at long last, we now have an agency which was established by law several years ago, but to place it or to put it into motion, a lot of preparatory work had to be done. And that is the Albanian Investment Corporation, AIC, which, in cooperation with two other agencies, which are renowned in Europe, that is the Demanio agency in Italy, which has been doing this very job for many, many decades now, and which now owns 44,000 public properties throughout Italy. And that means that the state manages these properties by way of a particular and entrepreneurial approach. And of course, the Spanish property agency, CEPI, which is another partner of AIC's in this process of coming up with this approach and structure which is working now. So actually, what will happen, thanks to the AIC, so the Albanian Investment Corporation, is that the state will no longer be handing out properties like it used to do to the private sector, but what will happen is the contrary. It will play just as an active a role through the AIC so as to be able to make use, not only to make use of these public properties, but also to be able to have financial benefits out of this, which will then be used for further state investments. So for us, it is an absolute pleasure that these major development challenges are accompanied by an ever-increasing and more significant presence of international architects. In the jury today, we have the chair of the jury, José Selgas, who is also the co-founder of Selgascano, a studio which is universally renowned, and it is active in Albania. We have a new entry, Christian Keres, who is a member of the jury and a renowned architect in his own right when it comes to pushing the boundaries of design and of architecture in his own projects, and who, as has been the case in the past, is not simply here to give his own judgment and then just leave, but to stay and become part of this entire army of architects who are nowadays an extraordinary reality for Albania, where over 60 architects who are universally acknowledged and renowned, and who are the leaders of contemporary architecture in this day and age, are involved in this army of architects, and they work both in Tirana and in other parts of the country with Albanian entrepreneurs so as to give Albania new projects and new public works or new buildings which go in line with Albania's ambition for 2030 and for what Albania can do and will be able to do in the future as a country which will not simply be a tourist destination for its beaches and beautiful landscapes or cultural heritage and others, but will also be a destination for new, modern, contemporary architecture through these buildings and the new works that are being built in this country. And let me reiterate here one more thing, not simply for the sake of controversy, but to inform some uninformed voices that this new movement of architecture in Albania, which is led by these masters of architectural thought, and if there's no new incoming entries, I think there are 7 Pritzker Prize people, so they have received the Nobel laureates of architecture and they work in Albania. It is at the same time a major new school in our country, in our territory, and the fact that these architects, renowned architects, are becoming involved, and people think that Albanian architects are being left behind and aside, that is not possibly true, because the truth is far from that. We're talking about ambitious projects. We are talking about massive projects in turn, too, in terms of experience, of inclusiveness and involvement of various disciplines, which are part of these new works. So we're talking about works which even the most progressive part of the world actually trusts these renowned architects without looking at their passport, without looking at their ethnical origin, or any of these provincial thoughts we hear, voices we hear here in Albania. The most important thing is that this is an absolutely fortunate moment also for Albanian architects, because the international architects, every single one, work hand in hand with a local architectural design studio. And these local studios, the Albanian ones, are primarily made up of young architects, of young men and women who are both talented and ambitious, but without the necessary experience to be able to delve into these types of huge and major architectural designs. And of course, they can do this with these leading international architects, and in doing so, they will become independent creatively in the future through this transition, which basically is absolutely invaluable, I would say. And in closing, once again, allow me to thank each and every one of you, wish you the best of luck to all of the participants, that is, given the fact that I do have some experience and I've been fortunate enough to have been involved in these competitions. I know that these competitions can unfortunately only carry one winner. Actually, in this case, there will be more than one because we actually have 4 works and 2 competitions. So in these 4 sites, it doesn't necessarily mean that whoever has brought 2 projects will necessarily either win or not win both, but the majority will not be able to win, of course. But we also have some newcomers, and we have not left anybody, allowed anybody to leave without the possibility to become involved somehow in the future. We've created these opportunities. So, bearing in mind the fact that in order to build something in Germany, for instance, other than the project design, one needs also a voluminous dossier with a lot of other paperwork and documents and codes, which are 2,437. I think Albania provides an anti-stress process, gives you this anti-stress process as architects and creators. And for this reason, too, I firmly believe that the pleasure for this interaction is absolutely a joint one. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now starting with launching 5 concept designs for Suleiman Delvina and Jeanne d'Arc Boulevard for the public administration and multifunctional developments. We'll start with 3 first concept designs, 15 minutes each, and then there will be questions and answers with international jury. We will start with the team of Andrea Caputo and So Ol.
So they have double projects, but we can choose also 4 projects, meaning
we can make copies, new copies.
if someone has a very good project for one and another studio has for the other one, we can give 2 winners.
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
potentially then for winners,
Yeah.
not necessarily, but this is possible.
Good morning. My name is James Beckett, and as a research-based artist, I was invited to reflect on both the broader cultural and material contexts of our sites. Early in our process, it became clear we would have to both significantly project into the sky, as well as to excavate the earth. And this particular earth determines interaction with the Alpine belt, a geological stratification featuring a plethora of sediment and stone types, but also low-lying hot aquifers. It is a complex body, it is dynamic, fluid, and brimming with energy. So began our romance of buildings emerging from an Albanian geology, born of its very body and channeling its power. To cut into the stone is to cut into time. To incorporate this body is to recall the primordial, evoking a sense of continuity and permanence, the civic. Through conversations with residents, professors, and our architect colleagues of Tirana, we developed a vocabulary for the use of stone to connect to local histories, the vernacular, the folk. This is reversing the urban-rural divide to connect to local histories, but in aim to simultaneously inhabit the ancient and the futuristic, whilst being inherently respective of the present. In an ecological act, we invert our role from that of newcomer and potential sibling to that of provider. The earth we remove will become building materials, whilst offering affordable geothermal and parking to the immediate districts. And in doing so, we challenged ourselves to make truly human spaces in symbiotic relationships of both the direct neighbors and the city at large. In contrasting modes of both intro and extroversion, our terrains are to be welcoming and porous. We aim to evoke process and enigma, and in doing so seek to inspire and generate new energies. Thank you.
Good morning. So we all know how dynamic Tirana development is nowadays, and we also know that there's one of the main direction is the high-rise buildings. But in our side, we thought that there might be an alternative to that. So we decided to focus on a typology which is way more compact and dense, possibly impacting less in the context in terms of shadow, and so emphasizing presence versus height. And in the process of shaping the massing of the building, we took the void as a generative element. It's a formal and spatial poetics became a big help in shaping the program of the building. This is a mixed-use building, not just with traditional offices, residential, but also hospitality. And as mentioned, we really look at the ground as a starting point, and in this evolution from the ground to the sky. And in this connection with the ground, for us, becoming a sort of player of the very much alive Tirana street level became the target. So we really wanted to generate a sort of seamless experience from the ground floor, from the street level, to the idea of a sunken garden, a place which is descending 2 levels and revealing another part of the program, and also reinforcing the value of this program and possibly endorsing also the economical and the civic value of levels at -1, at -2. And so this sunken garden in this courtyard is basically the lookout of a podium, lower part of the building, which is possibly very much public. So ideally the most public function of the hotel, a co-working as a social space, food and beverage. All these levels share a terrace, which is looking out the city in a different way. We all know that looking Tirana from 100 meters above, it's a fantastic experience, but there's another level of the city, a lower Tirana, old Tirana maybe, 5, 6 stories, which we think is incredibly interesting to look at. And so we intentionally decided to align our podium to that city level and to create a sort of participation into this urban fabric. And so the terrace aligned at that level produce a new urban experience, possibly. Something which is very much related also to the levels on top. In that sense, we were really trying to understand what was the best way to approach the top levels. And in that direction, the site was really inspiring. Well, not just the presence of the river, but we discovered that also the telegraph agency of the country was in a moment based there. And in this printing facility, the inspiration came out. Basically, we wanted to mix the imaginary of architecture with the imaginary of printing, newspaper, writing. So it's an exercise which has been done in the past in architecture. Maybe one of the best examples is by Wilson, the Cosmos building in Tokyo. But we also look at the art field, and the work of Emilius Groh, for instance, is erasing text in order to reveal new meanings through absence, and so possibly transforming negation into presence. And we found this very interesting as a tool again, because the void at a different scale, at the facade scale, becomes a composition element, almost a constructive element. So the openings, the slits, the loggias were all defined by this kind of logic, forming our facade language. From this side, which is east, the building looks really compact and solid. But then approaching from Tirana River, there's a completely different direction and a completely different aesthetic of the building. It's more deconstructed and more open. It's more sculptural. And the more we go west, the more the building becomes open again. It's a sort of, we intentionally section that side of the building in order to reveal its program. And again, when we go north, the building becomes almost a cluster of blocks. And so again, diverse from the previous one. So in short, what we really wanted to produce is a sense of discovery in the city. Looking at the building from different point of view of Tirana becomes an experience. It's always different according to the point of view. The element which is taking everything together, it's a white stone from Vlora, which has the benefit of not just being a local stone source nearby this site, but it's also white. And looking at how Tirana developed in terms of colors, not just in architecture, but even in the art realm, we thought that being white is just good and radical. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, some slides are missing here. The sculptures that you would have witnessed in these renderings are composed kind of like a visual essay, so they're intended to be layered. The basis for these sculptures is the European common reed, which is quite a sprawling plant, and it's a rhizomatic plant. So this is something without center or hierarchy, and it's something that will grow across terrains. And superimposed onto this plant are various regional fruits of Albania. You have the apricot, which is growing on the Caputo site. And later you'll see the Ristan fig, which is a rare fig variety from the southern Albania growing from the solid objective site. These are at a scale of about 24 meters high, and they're made from steel and composite. And the idea is that further research through all the governmental agencies will inform new content that we can, in a visual essay stance, keep building onto the content of these sculptures. And I'll give you Florian Indenberg.
Good morning. It's an exciting day today. No, it's sort of exciting to be here. Thank you. Site 1 is maybe the most important site of today, because it's going to be the home of those that shape the future of this country. The policymakers, the planners, the engineers, the public servants, they deserve an aspirational home, one that is functional, comfortable, but inspiring. We think this site really needs to embody the sort of super optimistic spirit that everybody can feel here today. And so we, building on James's research, came up with a building that is deeply rooted in the Albanian geology, that connects the ground to the sky, the civic to the public, and the rich Albanian past to a super optimistic future. The site actually, and the project operates on these two scales. One is really the scale of the ground, and the second is this perspective of the horizon. The site is relatively embedded within a dense context with some low and mid-rise commercial and residential properties. And so that gives an opportunity to make a really attractive ground floor, very porous, walkable.
Sorry to interrupt you. You have 5 minutes left for your presentation.
And then the second perspective is really the sort of reaching out to the horizon. As the building rises on the second strata, it reaches beyond the boundary of the city to the Albanian terrain. And so we conceived the project out of 3 towers, so that we organized the massing in 3 towers. We moved the massing as north to the site as possible and organized its massing, its rotation, and its orientation in such way that it creates at least a detrimental effect to the neighboring property. So it steps up towards the north, and it's oriented so to create view lines beyond the site into the Albanian landscape. Also, the fact that we broke the program down in 3 towers allows to maintain a sense of address for all the different departments that will be housed here. So there's some sort of sense of organization and orientation when one comes to the building. These towers, they merge together on the second strata, the sort of collective living room where everybody can work together, where there's place for socialization, for food, and meeting rooms. Tower A, 45 meters high, has aviation, EU integration, governmental services, and the parliament. The Tower B, 56 meters high, tourism and environment, and Tower C has planning, design, and education, with a restaurant on top. And below, the very porous plinth with public programs, retail, office, the kindergarten along the park, And all organized in a quite systematic, very well-planned lower level with 2 levels of parking, where we extend sort of parking beyond the building of the base of the building, allowing the entire neighborhood to also park in this garage, reducing the amount of cars on site. And so this is the view from the northwest. You see sort of from the main avenue how a more porous and walkable pedestrian landscape is being created, and this shared living room on level 3, where all the people in the office come together to work and socialize. For the skin, we looked very carefully at the environment and its orientation, and we proposed sort of a double-layered skin with an outer layer of stone louvers that are oriented in such a way that they minimize direct sun impact and also bounce the light deep into the site. This second layer is an operable sliding door. It's an insulated glass unit sliding door. This allows for natural ventilation during the shoulder seasons. It's set back at certain places to allow to go out, maybe smoke a cigarette, maybe spend some time. So on certain floors, it's actually set back to create balconies. And we use here a local stone, again, using cut-offs from the quarry, so not new stone, but actually rest material to not further extract material out of the site. So what this does is create a very light and innovative structure, something that embraces the stone but produces a completely new sort of light layer of the building. I'll quickly take you in my last minute through the site. So there's different ways to approach a drop off towards the north. By organizing the massing, we allow for a large public park over here connected to the kindergarten, which can be given back to the neighborhood, which you see here on the one day that it will snow in Albania in the winter. And then the very open, porous structure of the plinth. This is arriving from the northwest. We stimulate people walking up actually through the lower levels, or take the elevator to that shared living room, which is on the 4th or 3rd floor. This is a place where all the office workers can socialize, can be together. There's a library, there is a cafe, there is exhibition spaces. So these are the more public programs towards the north. And then a set of meeting rooms on the southern side, flexible for larger meetings such as these. The office floors are all specially shaped to the sizes of the different departments, but it's also possible to create intra-departmental connections at different levels if need be. So in closing, we try to create a building that fully sort of embodies the aspirations that we're seeing here today, one that looks optimistic to the future, an innovative approach towards reusing material, and something that I think expresses hope. So thank you very much.
Now the members of the jury are invited for questions.
I'm fascinated by the ground floor. This is always the difficult part in a high rise. What is the idea of this urban square in this? I would say it's also a topic in both both proposals, because this is also, let's say, the view from the visitor, the view that people on the street will have, and this, in this sense, interests me more than, you know, how the building will look from far away.
I think the site itself is really dense. We went to the site yesterday. It's incredibly embedded. It's currently walled off. It's a inner parking area. And so actually it's quite inaccessible. But I think what it does is, what we try to do is minimize the footprint and really pull it back to create a much more open space where people can walk and sort of enjoy. And so I think one of the main moves we did is create a completely open space over here, which is basically south facing and which can become a neighborhood park. And so maybe here, this site plan shows it most clearly. And so we hope to make a very open, porous, and pedestrian-friendly ground floor. The way we are envisioning this structure is that it really sort of creates shelter and shade when it is, on hot, sunny days. If you look at the typologies here in downtown Tirana, also the ground floors and the second floors are very active and open. So we want to create sort of an open, shaded, almost portico-like environment underneath.
It's a bit the opposite in the sense that our side is very accessible, nearby the river, but the risk of having a tower without any connection with the city was really high. The risk of becoming a corner store was high. And so we operate in the opposite way. We basically, through the void, first of all, we lifted the building at the ground, and then we made this sunken garden, which is a new concept of urban square, if you like, and at the same time, it's a space to be permanently there and to enjoy. But we were also very much fascinated by the idea of the people passing by, and so crossing that space. In fact, we placed the spiral staircase and the slope as different ways of creating that experience. But the major intention was to generate a sense of publicness at the ground of this building and have this space very porous.
Well, thank you for this amazing project. I was wondering, because a part of the brief was focusing on the impact of the buildings that the buildings could have on the environment. I wonder, besides the geothermal system and the reuse of materials from the quarry in Flora, if you had other, let's say, features.
I think one of the things we're trying to do is keep all the heat out of the building before it comes in. So the shade, like the stone is used to shade the structure, of course. And I think that's the other feature. And I think the fact that we created a large public garden on the south side, which will be porous and green. Yeah, so minimize sort of site occupation.
Yeah, I would say we share the same direction. Our building is clad at 85% in the surface, and so this is helping a lot in controlling not just the light, but also the temperature of the building. And especially in Tirana, I think it's a direction which has to be taken into account.
Yeah, I found interesting the fact that you reduced the physical footprint of the building in order to be more generous on the public area and have also more vegetation also outside. That's that's important. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I really understand especially the public building as a place which is really absorbing people coming from far away, especially workers coming from all over the city. Also the neighborhood directly coming there, and really interested in the underground parking as a place that has a big impact on the neighborhood around. Can you just talk a little bit about how that might work and what spatial impacts would that parking have on the neighborhood around it in the best case?
So if you look at the site now, the streets are filled with cars. Like it was quite impressive. Yeah, you see it maybe here a little bit. What we try to do is figure out which street would be the least sort of disturbant to have the parking entrance come in. So in the site plan, you can see it here. This is a small access. This is where you go down. We do use the entire site, even under the park, as parking. By that, we can expand the amount of parking spaces to also incorporate neighborhood parking. There is one part of the parking that needs to be secure. The plans are actually in the book, so we have all the parking plans resolved there as well. And the exit of the parking, you loop out here. So we try to really minimize its impact while maximizing its capacity, and indeed absorbing more of the cars than just the people that work here. Still, we hope people will take the bus and walk and bike, but still we have discovered cars are really loved here at this moment.
My colleagues are going to comment on architecture, representing public administration. I'm going to look at the numbers. So I see that you have foreseen in the public administration building like 42,000 meter squares, which is a bit higher from what the program needed. So how does that come? And the other part of the question is, what's the percentage of the circulation of this building? Because from the plans, it looks like a lot.
I don't know if I have a good plan, or maybe we can go to this plan. So it might be that this floor is taking a lot of extra space. It's a space which is really the space for everybody in the office to come together and socialize. It's a place where you can come if you don't want to work in your office, to have sort of meetings and things like that. It might be that we have calculated also the full exterior space. So we include some terraces and exterior spaces in those numbers as well, because we think it's nice to be able to go out and enjoy. I don't think the efficiency is so low, because basically it's a core building that we made as compact as possible. And so on the floors themselves, I don't have the exact percentage in the top of my head, but basically this is the core on the different floors, and the rest is really open workspace. So it's in that sense quite efficient building.
Back to the energy efficiency, because I see your point in the first building, but in the Babylon Nexus, all this glass in a city that had the hottest summer ever, I could see the first building had a justification with the shade and trying to keep heat out. But in this second building, I still need to see an argument how a building with so much exposure and so much glass will deal with the Tirana heat.
So we did work with an environmental engineer analyzing all the sun paths, etc. And this system is very flexible in the sense that it allows us to calibrate it depending on where the direct sun is. So it's not dynamic, so it will be statically installed. But for instance, this is the south-facing side where we can organize it in such a way that there's actually very little direct heat coming on the glass.
And would it add to the expenses of the building? Is it something affordable? Is it economical as a
We have to ask our local architects, but they said we can afford it. But the good thing is that the system itself behind can be a pretty straightforward system. It's an insulated glass sliding door, and it allows us to open the doors, for natural ventilation. So in some way, it's a much more low-tech solution. So I mean, obviously, we need to do the full cost calculations, but it is certainly something that I think can be achieved.
Okay, thank you, Florian. Thank you, Andrea, for your presentation and both very nice projects. I think I see one was very curious about Adelina said about the dimension. So because it also could be a good excuse, I mean, to somehow merge both projects in one, maybe carrying a little bit of the second one, a little bit of volume, and creating more. But the space, I think it was much more interesting in the first one. That's the central core of the building, where the people collides and the people interacts more. And I don't see that in this one, which is it could be a good point to merge somehow both of them. Also in the way also you use the same kind of, I think it's the same material, right? It's kind of the same stone for both, same material. So it could be also a nice idea, as the mayor said, to bring somehow some parts from one facade to the other facade and collides both together somehow as well. Yeah, like a lot of course, the shape you made in this one. Also, I think also for that thing could be benefit the first one from the shape of the second one as well. So it could be a very good decision. So at the end, maybe that public space, central core public space could be very beautiful in this one as well. So at the end, as the Prime Minister said, maybe at some point we could merge both together. And I want to know if you are happy with that, probably that possibility to keep working together and to create one building together in that sense.
Very good friends.
No, and it has been generated by this principle. Basically, we work together, not just in the choice of materials, but in this stratification of the building, in the fact that we have a void and they have more a positive form. So it's and also our facade is about holes and their facade is about positive parts of this holes potentially. So it was really developed under that way. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ada.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And now we're inviting the next team.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we continue with the second design concept. We will follow for 15 minutes the presentation, and then we'll have 5 minutes of questions and answers. We'll have the presentation of the team of Colfay et Associés Architectes Urbanistes.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Thomas Collefi from Collefi Studio from France. So first of all, I would like to say how happy I am, and I hope you can see it on my face, to be part of these great moments that you are putting for the city of Tirana and for the future of Albania. Second thing I want to say is that we decided after many years of looking the evolution of Albania to be part of it and to understand how we can play a role, because it's also very close to our own agenda, and we really like the idea of bringing people together into one culture, which is the culture of Tirana, and everyone can bring its own input. So we have decided to assemble an amazing team and to play the game of this local game by working together. Here you have on the stage only one part of it, Zoltan Neville with my colleague from America and Hungary, and then we have Jacobo, very good artist and friend, and also working with Andy from Atelier 4 in order to propose something that should be very unique, very special. And even so, we have two different sites. They share for us the same spirit. I mean, we have different programs, but somehow in the end, we have been really attracted to create something unique for the city, which is rooted by its people. We understand that many of the architectures that have been happening is an evolution and not a revolution. And we want to propose something that is both very humble and both very sensitive for the culture of the city. So, and the more we got interested after several travels to Tirana, the more we got into it, the more we found the spirit of the city, which is both chaotic and both energetic, and both vibrant and both chaotic, but that makes the beauty of the city. And we found our own recipes with using three ingredients to define what could be something for the place. The first one is, as I was saying, is the city and the people. We understand this organic way of making this city, the way it is constant evolution, the way there is a certain freedom in making this city. There is also a vibrancy. The second theme is, of course, the natural part of the city, which is the surrounding. So I'm not going to say something that everybody knows, but somehow it is very special. It is very special, and everybody wants to feel it even more in their daily life. More accessible, less cars, less accessibility to public space, to the nature, and to engage with what we are looking for in terms of cooling our cities. The third one is, of course, the colors. The colors of the city is very special. very unique. And it's not only colors of the walls, but it's colors of the texture, colors of the pattern, the vernacularity also of the people. And we started to sketch with the team and with Jacobo, and how are we going to make something new, which is something unique for the city. On lot one, what strikes us when visiting around and walking around the city is how dense it is, but how dense somehow in a good way, but also in a bad way, because as Florian also was saying, it's a kind of a car district, and somehow the car has taken a little bit the liberty of people. So our strong belief for this site is to give back, to open it, to make it breathe, and to create something, to create a building that is not only a building, but more a canopy of community for the people. So we deliberately chose to stay a kind of a low-rise building, because we think the city has a lot of a higher point, and even so, the site area seems to be, could be creating a kind of a barrier or an equipment. We wanted to define something that is very Tiranese, somehow by extruding courtyard, creating access to light and air, by creating those small modular buildings that will be able to be very flexible, but also to allow the city to continue to flow in and to go through, and to invite people for we don't see this building only as a government building, we see it as a place for people, for the future of Tirana, and allow for a lot of space to be welcoming for the people. We also wanted to stay low and to provide a kind of a canvas for the city, because you see all those congested buildings that are a little bit high up, and we wanted to propose architecture as a canvas, as not only a building. And that's how we started to interact with Jacobo on saying art and architecture shouldn't be divided. We should also give it to the people, to allow the perception and the sensitivity of those colors to be interacting with the architecture, through the architecture, to open also the space of the ground floor, almost like a small village with a porous activity. That is very important for us, that this building is not a barrier, will not have a gate, but we want to extend the flow of the streets and of the street scale and the flow of the city through this building that is more to be seen as almost as a urban campus, a campus that is for the people, for the nature to get in, but also for the art intervention to become a new beacon city, a new landmark. And even so, by doing this approach, we also give people the capacity to invent a project that is kind of playful, something that is in constant evolution, like the city of Tirana is. Adapt our building for the future generations, be creating a landmark, not for the sake of the ego, but for the sake of the people, for the sake of the future of the city, and to adapt it to the different components of the city, which are pedestrian, nature, and also end users. In terms of architecture, we wanted to stay, to create both a humble building, which is something that we feel in Tirana, but also something that relates to the people. So we were very interested to define in this dense mineral environment, to create a smooth texture, which is wrapped by this sense of clothes that will be both iconic and soft, and at the same time will be a protective layer to invent something that will be nestled in its environment. So our project is a project that is very free, very open, where you see we extend the beauty of the city scale of Tirana, and also adjacent to the site, where art becomes a wayfinding place, but more than that, it becomes the texture also of the city. Art shouldn't be a part of the building. We want something to be very popular somehow and play with the scale of the building. So in the end, in this very particular project, we don't want to have hierarchy. We don't want people to be elitist at the top of the building. We don't want people to feel at the ground only for just daily services. We want this building to reflect the generosity of Tirana, to reflect all the attention that Tirana is putting forward in terms of low carbon footprint, but more than that, in terms of humanity, to create a building that is really relating to the sense of the city. And by doing so, And also we want to decongest this district by creating those 2 layers of car parks to open it to the city and diffuse and propose a building that is really, or a plaza that is really car-free and is woven into the city fabric as an extension of the city and not as a block, not as something that is creating a barrier. So we want this project to be a beacon of the future of Tirana, a reflection of the culture of Tirana, a reflection of the open-mindedness of the city through creativity, but also through the vibrancy of the city as a pedestrian city, and hence even spaces that are, for example, on the roof terraces for citizens and not only for the administration. In this project also, you will see that we have created small patios that will be little hubs, little places to gather and providing space for the people, but also for the nature to bring the coolness that is necessary in this environment, and creating small gardens, patio gardens that will retain water to allow to diffuse the freshness in this building. So in the end, we want to create a landmark that is a soft landmark and something that is really relating to the notion of Tirana and to the looking forward of Tirana. So lot 2 for us follows the same inspiration, somehow in a very different scale, of course. But the particularity of this lot 2 for us is its relationship to the extension of the old city fabric, very dynamic, but also to the connection of the natural landscape. So we could have come again, as I was saying, we didn't want to create something that is a barrier, something that is creating some kind of obstruction in the city. So, but we decided to open up the project into 2 vertical elements that should be also carved by the context. We want to offer a project that is coming from the people and coming from the natural feel of the city to allow some natural connection with the urban park and with the capacity to enhance the city of everyday life. Also, we decided to shift our proposal back in order to allow create a plaza, a public space that is somehow connecting.
You have just 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left. Thank you. So I will hand it very soon to my friend Jacobo to express this idea.
No, finish.
We wanted those buildings to be some kind of figures for the characters of the cities that are shaped by the essence of the city. So in the end, the form of this project is a continuity of its ground floor, of the extension of the plaza that we want to create. We would also like to have the opportunity to look at the bridge connection in order to create a small pause in the city and extend this plaza in a horizontal manner by creating this attractivity at different levels. In the same way, with Jacobo, we decided that the art interactions are very special, something you can sense and something relating to the people.
Buongiorno a tutti, sono Jacopo Foggini e vi descriverò un po' quello che è stato il mio intervento all'interno del progetto. Siamo partiti dalle ispirazioni che nascono dalla cultura albanese, in particolare dall'analisi delle opere tessili che dipingono i costumi del folklore locale. Attraverso l'uso del policarbonato, che è questo materiale che avete appoggiato sul tavolo, pensiamo di realizzare queste bacchette che avranno delle diverse dimensioni che decoreranno i nostri edifici. Saranno delle bacchette che di giorno avranno una luce naturale per cui rifletteranno la luce del sole, e saranno delle bacchette che di notte si illumineranno in maniera artificiale, dando questo effetto come can you go on the vision of the night vision? Dando questo effetto molto spettacolare che comunque, insomma, in qualche modo ricorda e ritorna alla tradizione folcloristica di cui parlavamo prima. Per quanto riguarda l'edificio ministeriale, abbiamo pensato di realizzare il tetto, ispirandoci proprio a quelle che sono i piccoli villaggi della Grecia, della Sicilia, insomma, dei luoghi da cui arriviamo, dove di fronte al mare dove tutti siamo nati. Per cui in qualche modo è un'interpretazione moderna di qualche cosa di antico che speriamo che si possa realizzare. Concludo dicendovi che, scusatemi, ma ormai l'età, ho bisogno degli occhiali. Le sfumature che abbiamo scelto sono i rossi, magenta, l'azzurro e queste bacchette saranno realizzate a mano, per cui ci sarà un intervento, chiamiamolo industriale, che farà parte della realizzazione di questi edifici, mentre invece tutto quello che vedete colorato sarà realizzato manualmente nei nostri laboratori in Italia. Grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie. Thank you very much. Now the members are invited for questions.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. I'm wondering about these terraces. Are they directly accessible for the public, or do you have to go inside the building to?
On the first site, the administration.
Yes, on the first site.
Yeah, the idea was to create this kind of flexible module. So we use the program as it is. So it's a module that's perfect for the parking below and also for the offices above, but also allows flexibility. We assume that even between the departments, maybe the departments will change. So it allows this flexibility, and then therefore the terraces kind of support both the office spaces and provide some terraces for the public as well. So the idea is not all of them are for the public. Some would be accessible to the public via a public lobby where we can get to certain terraces, and other ones support office space exteriors where we can like breakout rooms from offices or continuation of meeting rooms and these kind of things. So of course, that's something that at this stage we design kind of as a system, and we want to, of course, work it together. We know that security is an issue and how people walk through the building as public compared to the places that are open for the workers, and also maybe certain places that is actually private. So there's a portion of the project that's commercial, whether leased out to offices or other kind of retail spaces. So our idea was all of that can kind of work together in the system, and we can define more specifically what's public, semi-public, public, and kind of private spaces, also including on the rooftops.
And the interior spaces that relate to the public ground floor or to the terraces, do they have a specific program, or is it more the idea that, let's say, the work of the civil services becomes transparent to the public?
It's a good question. So I think that our idea to start, because I think for us, we see that kind of as a spectrum. There's kind of a conservative and maybe more radical spectrum. So we thought that already on the ground floor and being able to go through this porous building and seeing some of the work, that already creates a kind of sense of transparency. And that is part of our intention. In a practical way, we thought that probably there may be some public places within the upper parts of the building, for example, a cafeteria or a cafe or restaurant or something like that, and it would have a controlled, easy access, but we're not generally walking around unless it's the wish of the administration departments, and of course then we could arrange it. But our idea was it more the ground floor and specific portions like a restaurant.
Thank you. I would like to say up front, I really appreciate just the basic concept of the low rise for the public building. I think makes a lot of sense in that neighborhood. I want to talk a little bit about again, so building on that question about the difference between accessibility for the staff of the building versus the public.
Yeah.
Can you just say what's the basic concept of the breakdown? Because there's a security issue here also, of course. So
Yeah.
just how does that work, and to what degree are those spaces flexible long term for the use?
Yeah, so I mean, in general, the system is we kind of broke up the site into modules, and there's a certain number of cores that come down and touch the ground, and those become kind of lobbies or like feet that would irrigate the building. So of course, by having these kind of ground floors, there's opportunity to open up different parts of the ground floor. So, for example, we were thinking about this in terms of flexibility. I don't know how this kind of private-public partnership would go, but perhaps there's an idea that one of these little towers should become a business hotel, or we want some extra retail. And the idea was that we have a number of cores distributed through the buildings that we could kind of isolate one of them to work kind of independently. And so also if it's just an administrative campus, it would work in the same way where there's certain lobbies that have cores that come up, and then you can irrigate through the levels kind of in the same way that you irrigate the ground floor, and the transparency is there, but not necessarily accessible unless where we say it is and there's a security check. But we could potentially say, actually, this module here, we want to open it up, and we have a great storefront or cafe or restaurant that's even giving to the street or to the patio, and liven up that space. So there's a lot of flexibility, and I mean, we briefly touched upon it, but we provided extra parking actually on the ground floor, because our idea was that not only to provide the parking here, but that a certain percentage of the parking, even during the day, could become a public parking. And so that could generate revenue for the site, but also, as the precedent team was saying, really help to decongest kind of this area around. And so our idea is this object that we're putting here is almost like a vacuum, and pulling people through it, allowing them to walk around, and cleaning up the streets around from cars. And so it could really be, a place now, if a kid goes down from the flats, they don't have anywhere to go. And so now they can come in this pedestrian area and the patio. And so it really becomes part of the daily life as well. A long answer, but hope it got, yeah.
First of all, thank you for these elements here. In the beginning, they looked like Sicilian black magic for the jury. And my question is about them in the real life and the maintenance, because here it's always an element that one should never forget, the maintenance. And we always try to think how a beautiful project can stand the test of time, not in terms of the intentions of the architects, but in terms of simply how the maintenance is made, how expensive it is, or how possible it is, or what will happen to these beautiful elements in time. I believe that in terms of temperature and sun, they are intact. But when it comes to how to clean them up and how to have them shining all the time, and also when it comes to the first project where they are more kind of touchable by people, how much they will protect themselves by being taken, by being broken, by being harmed, and so on. So it's about the maintenance bit. And also, if I may, this looks much more solid, but at the first one, all this very elegant covering of the building. If you can say something about the material, and again the maintenance of all this fluctuating surfaces, yeah, the tents and the curtains.
Abbiamo Abbiamo lavorato molto su questo policarbonato. Abbiamo appena finito un grossissimo progetto per il re dell'Arabia Saudita, per cui avevamo delle grossissime difficoltà. Eravamo di fronte al mare e con delle tempeste di sabbia. Quindi con questa azienda tedesca abbiamo trovato il sistema di vetrificare questo materiale, di renderlo stabile, per cui non cambierà colore, è garantito per alcune decine di anni. Il materiale è resistentissimo, può essere toccato, può essere tranquillamente toccato dai bambini, da chi è interessato, chi ci passa vicino. Nel caso soprattutto delle tende che si trovano sul rooftop dell'edificio ministeriale, per cui possiamo dire che stiamo presentandovi un materiale inedito che non è mai stato usato per nessun altro progetto al mondo, se non in questo caso in Arabia Saudita, in un progetto che sarà presentato a breve.
Maybe if there's anything to add, I think so. Jacopo has a luckily long experience developing this very special material, and so and on other buildings as well. So it's adapted for facade outside and also to the touch. And the rest of the building, we also wanted to, in this one, we used a kind of wavy metal panel. So it looks soft, but it's actually a quite standard system, very efficient. And so also this, it goes together with this building being easy maintenance, flexible, modular, and adaptable for the future.
Detached from the facade.
Yeah.
Double skin facade. So axis.
Quindi l'effetto visivo è esattamente uguale a quello del vetro, con la differenza che col vetro avremo dei pesi insostenibili, sarebbe impossibile realizzare un progetto come questo.
Maybe we can also touch on we kind of got rushed at the end, but it's kind of two different ways to use the palette, where it becomes kind of part of this layering of skin on the public administration center, and something that's more embedded into the rock or the stone on the tower. So it's kind of two different ways to use this material that we really liked, one in a more light way and one in a little bit more permanent way, almost like it's carving out. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I think, of course, I like very much the first location with the low rise impact that is, I think, is real, and then somehow, and also the relationship with the people and the green, but well, maybe this material which is appreciated, and thank you very much. I think probably is a bit too expensive for me. I don't care about because I know perfectly polycarbonate that can last forever, can be very bad. I'm more curious about this other facade that I haven't seen any view from the inside. No, for me it's a little bit, that grid is a little bit too much, could be, but also I don't see as a real protection from the sun. I mean, and also it's everywhere the same, but also, yeah, how you see those. I mean, how you see the evolution of that facade, and yeah, and this. I mean, if we can work in other way with the color in another piece, probably cheaper or somehow.
Sure, as you raised, today's presenting a vision of what we think should be a really nice integration. And in terms of this skin facade, it's both soft and something that it's a metal mesh that we want to wrap and allow a certain freedom in its movement. Today we have designed it as a kind of a general wrapping, but I think it has a capacity to move and to be adapted also to different angles. This is something that is rather simple, and at the same time creating a certain sophistication. And from the inside, it will be like a perforated mesh or perforated veil that will bring a filter to the sun, and we can also play with that according to the orientation of the buildings. So I think it has a lot of freedom. Today, it's a general movement that we wanted to give to give also a sense of the concept is coming from also Fustanella close and something that we wanted to reflect into architecture and to create something that is not a piece of design, but something that relates to the culture. And I think with this proposal, there's a lot of possibilities. Maybe it's not totally not the same openness at different levels, but it's, to answer your question, it's the materiality is a metallic mesh that we will develop to make it very specific to the condition of the site. So from behind, you will see through, but we'll have a certain opacity or density of this mesh. And in terms of course, that was part of your question was also about the colors of the art, or maybe I didn't understand that well.
No, well, I mean, I was more worried not about the colors, but about the materiality of the color. You know, the density of this material that I guess is a bit expensive and a lot of weight. So maybe in the future could be developing something lighter and cheaper. That's
maybe about that. That was the idea. So now there are pieces to show the quality of the material, and of course we'll work together to make it specific, based on exactly how they're placed, the length, the width, the thickness. Maybe it's something much more thin.
Of course.
So yeah, that's Jacopo.
okay. Thank you.
I would like to add something. Yeah, yeah, I was very inspired actually by a few things, how you tackled both projects in a very different way, like low rise and high rise, and also this combination of integration of art in the architecture, which is not merely decorative. It has also a function. So it's not an object placed in a square, but it's something that becomes integrated in the facade. And I found that very poetic as well. And there's this aspect of security that we tackled before between public and private spaces. Also the transparency that is related also to safety. And again, we were talking about this mesh outside and how that you think it can have an impact on the energy efficiency of the building in general, because now it becomes more like a screen that blocks partially the sun, but still the sun will go through the mesh and hit the facade, which is completely glazed. And
I think that I think on both projects we had a similar intention and approach, but a little bit different. So we wanted to both protect and adapt in terms of climate and solar impact, and also in a more aesthetic and maybe experiential way to create a little bit of an intimacy. So we our experience of the city, it's really dynamic, but there also is a little bit of, we wanted to have kind of respect between the building and its neighbors, especially in such a dense place. And so on the first hand with the mesh, we thought, as Thomas said, it is I mean, so without getting into the technical parts of it, it's a double screen that does produce shading, but also there's a little bit of an overhang in the way that it's installed. So it creates from the edge of the slab some direct sunlight. This mesh can be adapted to different parts. It can open up, but the idea is everywhere it's completely transparent going through. We worked on projects like that elsewhere, and behind is now it's represented as generally glass, but of course that should be adapted based on the exact program behind each one. Maybe oftentimes offices have a ledge because they want to put furniture in those areas, and so the back facade also becomes adaptable. But the idea is that we're connected visually all around. And this, yeah, and the same way for the tower, but which happens in a different way with this opaque mineral slab and balustrade that's combined together that creates this effect of texture, whether it can be stone or it can be a kind of tinted concrete that has the artwork embedded into it. And the terrace that gives a little bit of space between the facade of whether it's a bureau hotel or office hotel or residential units, they have a little bit of space. Terraces there that can either be occupied, planted. So there's also an ability to become influenced by the occupant and give a little bit of a distance from there. So they have a great view out. The environment kind of comes in and seeps into the tower, but they're also not you're not looking into someone's workspace or office space. So that was kind of our idea, to balance the openness and the kind of intimacy in a different way on both. And of course, these terraces have, create depth, so create shade. And we can also study more precisely the depth on each of the sides, but that's the intention.
Okay, thank you very much. I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will continue with the third presentation for the first group, first cluster. We will have 15 minutes of presentation and then questions and answers with international jury. We'll have the team of EMBT architects.
So, good morning, everybody. We're very happy to be here today, and I'm Benedetta Tagliabue, leader, founder of Miralles Tagliabue MBT based in Barcelona. But today, to have this incredible opportunity, we have a big team with us. We have an artist who is connected online, Adrian Vescovi, who we are already collaborating with. We have as local architect Aude. We have Transolar as climate engineering. The structural engineering, we have some studio from here, Valbona and GB Studio, but we also have someone that we know very well. We have done complex structure together with Francesco Iorio from CEO. And so this team is the one behind me while I'm explaining this very ambitious, fantastic project. I think, well, Tirana taught a lot to me in the past and now. And so we are asking ourselves, what can we give to Tirana, to Albania, to make something really special, to make something which is contributing to this incredible growing and ambition of making a fantastic new city, especially looking at architecture. So one of the things we think we can give is, for example, public space. The capacity of giving a high-rise building which is creating space underneath, which is not easy. Usually high-rise creates a kind of an isolation around. But we tried in this two buildings that we are providing you to start from the public space so that the high-rise is growing, letting the piazza and the space underneath be really more lively and more connected. Because I think one of the problems in Tirana and in the spaces we are seeing is the no connection of the ground spaces. So at least these buildings that we are providing are trying to make an effort to put their feet in a nice and conscious way on the place where they are. This is a government building. Also, the government building has this attention to this very difficult space so that it touches the floor in very little moments in order to create really a kind of a complexity on the ground floor that then gives the complexity of the functions inside of the building. So I think we started to investigate our volumes and our building, keeping this idea of the public space in mind. So what else can we, so you see, this is the government building, how this is kind of reconnecting the difficult situation where it is now, making this a kind of a recognizable place, accessible from many other places. So what else can we, so this is the images of the public space we are trying to provide with the building we are giving you. So what else can we give? Maybe we can be able, thanks to some experience we had in the past, to make a kind of a complex building, which also is not only one volume, but can show the different forces that create the building in the space. And we love to work with models. We love to work with our studio and our atelier, and together with many people, so in a kind of a collective way, we investigate the first part of the project, trying to arrive to have something that we think it's possible, it's new, it's corresponding to the situation. So now we go to zone one. It's we are starting with a private building, and we are in a fantastic space in front of the river. So we have the experience that some high-rise buildings have a fence around. Well, I think it's very important to try to make a space which is possible for other people, which is possible for the city. So the base of the building is an open base. You enter from the ground floor, and the building can rise, keeping these different volumes, which is hosting more commercial housing and offices in an equilibrium that will be discovered little by little by the person who will develop that. So the ground floor has this entry from this big door, which is created by the volumes which are creating the building. And then is growing, and by growing, the plan changes. And by changing, also you provide terraces and public spaces in the different levels of the building, giving the possibility to host housing or offices in the different volumes, which corresponds to the composition of the building itself. So we also have another point that we like very much, and we have been playing with in our experience, which is color. Now we're seeing the section of the building, but colors is something that we love in our architecture. Colors corresponds also to materials. So we are with this facade, we are playing with a double skin, knowing that the skin outside can make a big work, and a factor of climate, factor of recognitionability, and shading or opening. So it's a kind of a material. You might have something on top of your table that is giving the possibility to open, so that in the south can be more dense, in the north can be more open, in the behind can have at a little distance the glass and the real facade, so that we can implement either on the facade or on the secondary facade, or the exterior one, a color which will make the building more really Tirana, and also which will implement the art in the same facade of the building. We are calling for that a fantastic artist, Adrian Vescovi. I love what he does, and he's now in Madrid, connected with us with Zoom. And I try to work with him in another public building in Naples. And now we were proposing him to work together with us in order to provide a kind of a fantastic big drawing for the facade of the building. Now we don't want to tell you that this is finished, that we don't want to tell you that we decided how this drawing is, but we are very much looking forward with the possibility of calibrating in the reality, in the real material that will do the building, how these drawings, how the art of Adrian Vescovi can take place with less intensity, maybe with dots on top of the glass, or with more intensity, with a different interventions, either on the grid outside or in the wall inside. So I think this building can be very recognizable, can provide a really strong symbol on the river, and also can provide a first public space opening up in this beautiful green promenade that you have here, and also continuing the different levels of green on the different terraces. And we will discuss together how the color will take place, if in very subtle way or in a more intense way, or with which kind of material. Here you see the possibility, the glass and the exterior wall, they are both playing together in creating a special shadow. Here are some of the schemes of the structural engineer Francesco Ionio, who is here. He will be ready for explanation. Of course, these buildings are not easy because they are letting exactly a lot of space in the ground floor, but they are studied, and also we studied together with Transolar Alberto Bruno how we can make the minimum shadowing on the surrounding, how we can have the best climate in both the building we are presenting. So now we are going to the government building, which I think it's really a fantastic idea. Edi Rama explained before why these buildings have to happen, how these buildings can give a kind of a feeling of proud, of happiness to the people who is working there, and also a kind of a feeling of the sense of Albania and its government and its department. So the ground floor, as you see, is a very open one. We touch the floor in the minimum part possible. We extend the building so that the people will be able to use this interior space, which now actually doesn't exist, and will become a place with recognizability, and not kind of an official place which is rejecting, but a place which is accepting, a kind of a place which is expressing in the outside what's happening inside, but also which is creating a floor which is for everybody. Now, these are sketches. No, we worked. We are talking about departments of the government, the symbol of Albania. We try to work with it. We try to play with it. And maybe this bird, this flying eagle with two heads, a mythical animal, can be transformed into this
5 minutes left from your time.
5? Okay. With this volume, which can have a kind of a beautiful transformation, let's say. The flying bird with two heads can have a ground floor with public spaces, a government service in the main head, then planning and development in the second head or wing, and then education, European integration, and on the top we have aviation. So that it's a game which is really becoming a kind of an explanation of what's happening inside in the same building. So the building is interacting at the ground floor, also in the air, so that from the different point of views, this building is different, is showing itself with different faces, with different images, because it's not only one image, the one that we can give, it's a complexity, which I think it's revealing the complexity of Albania. So these are the top floors. You see how the building is changing. This is daring under the point of view of the structural engineer. That's why we are insisting very much and have fantastic structural engineer. The colors is the same as in the other building. We are playing with Adrien Vescovi, and we are playing with both the glass inner facade and the maybe ceramic outside grid, which is giving the possibility to intensify the color in a way that we can study in the future. So this is the structural engineer studies. This is Tiranë Solar studies. I think now we can give the possibility for the jury to give questions, not only to me, but please also to the team. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the presentation of these two very interesting projects. I was wondering, because the first one seemed to have like a more separation between the different functions within the whole complex, right? And you had in mind already an idea of how this could be divided over time as well, if there is flexibility within the program, or how do you see that? Because at the moment we have a percentage that will be still assigned in the future. So how do you see this distributed over the building?
So we have done the distribution actually in the building. So we have here a part of offices. So we are indicating in the blocks, and here is also offices. Then we are starting housing on the top floors so that we can also have the possibility to use the terrace from the offices, and then the top floors can become housing. But actually we are doubting about that, and this depends very much on the promoter, how he would like to use these volumes, these different volumes. I think it's quite possible to have this differentiation, and each one of the volumes is working as a possible function in itself. So it's also a building which gives the possibility to divide quite easily in a multifunction.
A quick question about the second proposal, the government building. Already at 7 a.m. this morning, it was convoluted with traffic. At 8 o'clock, there's 3 schools around that site. Have you thought about mobility in and out of the site and how, it goes with the local context?
We didn't arrive to look at the mobility in the surroundings. We have thought about the pedestrian mobility inside the block, which is something that I think it's needed, very much needed, and very important to provide, so that this block can start to become more open. Of course, I think something can be done in relation to some access, and I think this can be studied, of course, together with the authorities when this is necessary.
Yeah, I'll ask a question about the flexibility of the administrative building. So looking at your scheme, at your, let's say, volume, do you think there is flexibility if any institution wants to add extra space if we want to add another institution into that site? So do you find it possible for this scheme to be growing in the future?
I think it is possible. In a sense, we started with an ideal division of functions in the building, but I think it's possible to use the whole building as one, or to have more levels connected, because the connection is everywhere in the building. We have a complex building like that in Barcelona. Actually, it was used as one company, then they divided in two. Now they are selling and renting. So the flexibility is there, of course. But ideally, if this is a government building with department, it's very nice to have also a kind of a symbol of some of the departments in the building itself.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just to maybe get into the interior a little bit of the building, I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what the kind of the daily experience of someone who works there might be, and or just how do you think about it? How do you think about the interior experience of this building at my desk next to my coworker, and how does that day feel?
You know, this type of building, we have done something similar in Barcelona, which similar in which sense? This is not a tower which has a normal ratio, a core, and then a kind of a buffer space, and then the facades. Each one have the facade in this scheme very near. The fact that we have a kind of a cantilever horizontal tower, this is really giving a kind of a different distribution respect to the vertical cores, and makes that everybody will have the possibility to be near the glass, near the window, near the light. So when I was going in Barcelona to visit the Gas Natural building under construction, everybody was calling me and telling me, come to my desk. It's actually the best desk in the whole building. Everybody thought they had the best desk. So I think a building like that with a lot of facade, maybe facades are more expensive, but everybody have a very high quality of working.
Could you tell us more about the facade? Is it like a brise soleil, or is it like a metal mesh? No.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Sorry. No, I was wondering about the facade, how it actually would work also in terms of protection from the sun. Is it like a brise soleil? Is it or is it more like a metal mesh? Or
It could be metal, could be also ceramic, could be different material, and depending on the possibility, of course, metal is easier. This is more open, and it can be densified, as I said, in the different position of the sun. So depending on where is south and where is north, and in the other building we have what at the beginning was a kind of a mesh in a small scale, but because this is becoming big scale, it's more like a brise soleil in itself, so that we can open and making more narrow depending on the necessity. But also we have a second possibility to introduce a kind of a control, thermic control inside. The glass can have also these dots which bring the color, and we have another experience in Taiwan with dots which are kind of shading. So inside they are black, and they can give this good vision, and the outside is more white, so that is stopping the sun. And in this case, could be a pastel color of white together with some other colors. So the mesh, let's say the brise soleil outside is not working alone, is working together with the shading, which is also on top of the glass.
maybe if you could tell us something about earthquake resistance. Yes.
There are roughly two.
It's a small number.
Okay, there are roughly two ways to how can I say it? Two ways to protect from the earthquakes. The first one is to protect the people damaging the building. The second one is protecting the people and the building. We decided for the weird two buildings to add some specific quick elements. For the highest building, We are thinking to mass dampers, but not a typical passive mass damper as you can imagine in Taipei 101. That is okay. In Italy, it has been developed a new solution. They are active dampers. They are small masses moved electrically with batteries in order to function even during blackout. And they act, as you can imagine, as the noise cancelling of earbuds or for active suspension for the cars. And this is prevent the earthquake to come to the building. So we protect people and the building. This is the best for this slender building. For the other buildings, that is lower, okay, this is lower, and this thickness, it is irregular. We are thinking to an isolation-based system. So the earthquake does not come into the building. So the ground moves and the building does not move. There are two different systems because of the slenderness of the two different buildings. So we think to protect people and to protect the buildings. From the cantilever point of view, okay, they are long cantilever, but there's not land. They are not slender. The question of the cantilever is not the length, but the slenderness. And we have here a ratio near to 1 to 1, so they are not so slender. But however, in this case, we will use even the mass damper, the smallest mass dampers for the nose, exactly if you know with Formula 1 noses. They use these dampers in order not to move the nose of the Formula 1. So the idea is not to damage the building during the earthquakes, and not only to protect the lives. We already use the kind of elements in Italian areas with seismic forces quite near the Tirana forces.
I would like to ask you to go a bit deeper in the energy efficiency of the building or the footprint, because there are schemes, but we didn't tackle that part at all, I think. Thank you.
I don't know if the Transolare is connected online, Alberto Bruno.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Maybe he can.
Hello? Hello?
Hello. Hello, Alberto. They're asking about the energy efficiency.
Yes. In our work with Benedetta about the building, we focus on three main topics. And of course, there is also energy efficiency. Let me quickly go through these topics. First of all, we consider the impact of a tall building on the surrounding, which is a very complex topic because it's not only about the building, but also how this affects daylight access, wind patterns, and comfort in the neighborhood. So first of all, we consider from the beginning to shape the building and to create some opening at the base just to bring daylight on the back of the building and improve comfort, avoid the shading spots, and avoiding also strong winds at the base of the building and the surrounding urban public area. Then the second topic was, of course, the facade, and because this deals between outdoors and indoors, and we use a multi-layered approach. For each building, we use different layers of shading, as Benedetta described. But first of all, we want to focus on a simple facade, because we know this is the most efficient way of dealing with extreme heat and extreme cold, as happens in Tirana. At the beginning, we discussed about the option to have a double skin facade, but with a warm climate, it can be really a problem in summertime. So we stick with a simple facade and let the option to have a good solar control outside, and also the ability to open windows, because we want to flush the space in the evening in summertime to reduce cooling demand during daytime. So this was a first strategy. Then about the winter time, of course, we rely with a lot of glazing, and we optimize the transparency according to the exposure, just to balance solar gains with heat losses in winter time. So our basic concept was really focused on having a good balance between solar protection in summer and solar gains in winter time to balance heat losses.
Okay, thank you, Alberto. I think we are running out of time. It's been we are back in. Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. It's been beautiful, both projects, and yeah, let's go for the next ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.